This video is all about triangles. So that's what happens, remember, when you have a line and another line and then another line that doesn't actually meet at the same point. So these three lines are not concurrent. Okay, now there's an awful lot of things that can happen with a triangle. So today is mainly just a lot of words which you're unfortunately going to have to learn, memorize, remember. We're going to focus on understanding what the words mean and trying to find why those words actually are pretty sensible choices, so it should make it easier to remember. Okay, triangle. It's called a triangle because it's got three sides. Same way a tricycle has three wheels, a triceratops has three horns, and so forth. Very good. Three angles, actually. Triangle. I get it. Okay, so our first new word for the day is the word median. Median, of course, is not a new word. You know about median, it's the one in the middle when you've got a load of numbers in order. So the median of a triangle, what it does is it goes from the middle of a side and it goes through the opposite corner, and obviously the equation of the line kind of keeps going, but that's the median of the triangle, that bit there. Okay, through the middle and then to the opposite corner. So a median, okay, unsurprisingly, goes through the middle or the midpoint. So how do I find the median? Well, assuming I know these coordinates A, B and C, I find the midpoint of AB and then find the equation of the line that goes through that midpoint and that point there. So I have to find the gradient first and then work it all out. Okay, that's word number one. We'll do an example in a minute as well. So word number two is this word as well, altitude. Altitude. Now altitude is not a new word either. You know what it means. It's kind of like how high up in the air something is, how high something is. Okay, the altitude of a triangle is how high the triangle is. So this triangle, suppose I take AB and kind of imagine that's a base like this. Then if that's the base going flat now horizontally, then the height of the triangle is kind of this line here that goes straight up at right angles to the base. Okay, so this one is the median and this one here is the altitude. So it goes to the corner, to the top, and it goes straight up perpendicular to the base. So altitude is perpendicular to the base, and the base of course could be any side of the triangle. The base could be BC, so in which case there's another altitude here that's perpendicular right angles to BC and goes up to that top corner there. Okay, so perpendicular to one of the sides, could be any of the sides, and it goes through the opposite corner, goes to the top or opposite corner, just like the median also goes to the opposite corner or the top corner, depending whether the triangle is the right way up or not. So that's great, and we just have to make sure with our two new triangle words, median and altitude, that we don't get them confused with this word that we learnt a couple of lessons ago, perpendicular bisector. The perpendicular bisector, what did that do? Well, perpendicular meant it perpendicular to the side you're talking about, so it goes straight up. So perp to the base or whichever side you're talking about. And it also, well, bisector, bi meaning half, cut in half, by two pieces. So perpendicular to side and goes through midpoint or middle. Bisect goes through the middle. Okay, so this one's kind of like a hybrid, right? Okay, the median is the middle, goes to the opposite corner. It's a triangle, new word. Altitude obviously has to be going straight up to find the altitude, the height. So perpendicular to whichever side is the base at the moment, and goes to the opposite corner. So the two new triangle words go to the opposite corner. This is kind of like a compromise between the two. It's perpendicular to the side, but it again goes through the middle of the side as well. So there we go. Make sure we don't get these confused. You do just have to learn and remember these, I'm afraid. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, there's two more new words, which we're going to find out. So altitude, here's a good word for you. Orthocenter. I can never spell center. The Americans like it one way and someone else likes it some other way, but I think it might be like that. Anyway, orthocenter, okay? What that means is the point where the altitudes cross each other. Now here's an interesting thing. We learnt that lines were concurrent, they crossed each other, and it's unlikely that three lines will cross each other in the same place. Probability 0 actually. Well, magically, whatever triangle you ever draw, ever, all three altitudes are always concurrent, they always cross in the same place, and it's called the orthocenter. So this is where the altitude lines cross. And it always exists, and they always cross there. Interesting. And the final word is going to be over here. It's the word circumcenter. Okay, circumcenter. And what's that? That's this one. Okay, that is where the three perpendicular bisectors always cross. And again, the three perpendicular bisectors always cross at the same point. They're always concurrent. Remarkable. And what's even better, you're going to love this one. Okay, right. So the point where the perpendicular bisectors cross just so happens to also be the middle of the circle that you would draw that goes through all of the corners of the triangle. How incredible is that, right? So any triangle in the world, it's always possible to draw exactly one circle that goes through all of the corners, and the middle of that circle is always given by the point where the perpendicular bisectors cross. So that's why it's called the circumcenter, and it's given where the perpendicular bisectors cross. How incredible, okay? The orthocenter, why is that called ortho? Well, ortho is a posh word for, it's from the same root as orthogonal, and these are, it means things that cross at right angles. Okay, they don't have any common direction at all. They're orthogonal if they cross at right angles. So that's why ortho, these are the perpendicular ones because they all cross at right angles. But to be honest, that probably doesn't help you much because orthogonal doesn't really turn up much for at least sort of the second year of university maybe. So basically, you just have to remember this fact that altitudes cross at the orthocenter. And the perpendicular bisectors are the super cool ones that give you the center of the circle which goes around the point of the triangle. Okay, great.